We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Yay. Thanks.
Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is "We Are Gathered" by Amanda Udis Kessler. The words will be projected on the wall behind me. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, or just follow along and enjoy the music. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing the hymn, "We Are Gathered" by Amanda Udis Kessler.
We are gathered in the Spirit, our bodies are apart, filled with joy and touched with wonder, separate hands but mingled hearts, giving thanks and singing praises for the love that calls us on from our many different places. We are gathered into one. We are gathered in our sorrow, We are gathered in our fear, in our pain, and in our worry, in our anger and our tears, as we tend to one another with our gifts and with our care. Our community is strengthened through the faith and hope we share. We are gathered in commitment to a planet that is home. Works of justice, acts of kindness, bless the world and heal our souls. As our voices join together, may our song of peace resound. May we offer in abundance all the grace that we have found.
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Nick Williams, a member of the worship committee. I will be your worship associate today. Other members of our worship committee you will hear from include other members of the worship committee who make this service possible. That includes Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wedeking, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Luecki, who is in charge of our sound system. Tinka Friend will be presenting our reading today. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices. This UU community is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, how to create trust and compassion in one another. Once again, welcome. We are glad you have joined us here today. February is Black History Month, an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. Before we move into our service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites and email addresses and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all that information, and it's available on our website. Sharing joys and concerns is one of the most important rituals of our community, an opportunity to share milestones, losses, achievements, and experiences with one another. On the first Sunday of each month, we can both hear from those in the sanctuary and hear from contributors we have received. For those of you at home, you can send your joys and concerns throughout the month to uuchurchofriverside@gmail.com. Our next Joys and Concerns will be on March 3rd. We will have a special Joys and Concerns sharing today in today's service as well. The Social and Environmental Justice Committee meeting is today in the annex at 11:30 a.m. You can find the Zoom link and more information on the website. under social and environmental justice. Now, I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today's reading was written by Amanda Udis Kessler. Amanda Udis Kessler is a queer feminist hymn writer, sacred music composer, writer, sociologist, lay preacher, and anti-racism educator who works as a college administrator in Colorado Springs, Colorado. When not working on creative or intellectual projects, Amanda especially loves snuggling her pets, watching British baking shows, and revisiting selected Star Trek series. You can find Amanda's writings on the Amanda Udis Kessler website. What does it mean to matter? How do you know you matter? Today's reading takes a hard look at systemic racism and how it affects all of us. Colorblindness, that's denial of racial and social differences by emphasizing sameness, is often well-intentioned, an attempt to see everyone as a human being and therefore as the same, without paying too much attention to race and other traits seen as extraneous. Yet, colorblindness has no way to address the reality that our group identities lead to different treatments. What specific things can we do to commit to standing on the side of love in this particular arena of justice? Now for our occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is the occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. Second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon traditional territories of diverse and sovereign people, the original people of this land who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of indigenous people, including the Cahuilla, the Cupeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light the sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is "The Chalice is a Symbol" by Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is a symbol of the spark of all this within each of us. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the microphone and speak into it directly and clearly so everyone can hear. However, be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have any church members who would like to volunteer? All right. You're it.
Good morning. My name is Tinka Friend. My husband, who is Nick, and I first stepped foot in this church, not for a church service. It was but for a fundraising that hospice was having here. And during the intermission, when we went out, because the church provided snacks and stuff, and we were out there and picked up a bunch of pamphlets. And one pamphlet in particular drew me to it, and it was called The Views of a UU Feminist. And from the upbringing that I had in the churches, you were not allowed to be a feminist. You basically, the teachings within the church, the women were definitely of a lower status than the men. And so I've got to read this. So I read it. And so I told my husband, well, I'm going back there next Sunday. I want to see what that kind of a church would be like. And he's like, no, he wasn't going to come. So I came for about a month, about 3 Sundays in a row, and said, you should come. So he did. And that was February and March of 1996. And we've been here ever since.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's how it's done. If you're new, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. There's someone online. Well, we'll get to them. Anyone who would like to step up and introduce themselves? Anyone? Anyone at all? Adam, do we have anyone online who'd like to introduce themselves? No one online. Okay, well, I am glad that all of you are here, and it's great to see you. For any new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, or you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, and leave your contact information if you want to know more about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. We also have a stand out there with a number of free pamphlets so that you can get to know more about our UU faith. So please feel free to take any with you that you would find of interest, including that feminist one she talked about. Our hymn now is Heart Wide Open by Leah, L-E-A. The words will be projected on the slide behind me. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, or just follow along and enjoy the music. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in sharing Heart Wide Open.
Keep your heart wide open, though the waves wanna push you around. You gotta keep your heart wide open. till your faith brings you back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep my heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Though these waves wanna push, though they want me around, though the waves wanna push me around, I'm gonna keep my heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Until my faith brings me back to solid ground. We gotta keep our heart. We gotta keep wide open. We gotta keep our hearts wide open. Though these waves wanna push us around, although these waves wanna push us around, we gotta keep our heart. We gotta keep wide open till our faith brings us back to solid ground. Till our faith brings us back to solid ground. Say hi.
It is said that shared joy is a double joy. Shared sorrow is half sorrow. Since we skipped joys and concerns on the first Sunday of February, we will include it in today's service. Is there anyone here in the sanctuary who would like to speak their joy or concern? Please raise your hand and we will invite you to speak here at the microphone. Is there anyone who would like to come up and speak a joy or a concern? Step close to the microphone, speak clearly.
Not to get too political, but there's a certain man who's about $355 million poorer, and I can't think of it happening to a nicer fellow along the way. It's at some particular point, there's common sense, such as just don't dig yourself a bigger trench than you're already standing in. And then there's how about not projecting your cruelty into the world around? So as a joy, there's that one. As a concern, all the people that are sitting there trying to keep the faith when the world is broken around the edges, and for the family of Alexander Navalny. He died well.
Thank you, Bill. Well, I have some joy. I've started a new public speaking class at RCC after a successful semester in a student abroad program where Tinka and I spent 3 months in Florence, living in the same place and going to classes. And it was like somebody flipped a switch in my brain and turned it on. And now I'm excited to learn like I was never excited before. So that is a great joy of mine. I feel like I am woke. So I've escaped zombie land. I have a new diagnosis for my walking problem. It seems that my hips were out of alignment, and now having faced grueling physical therapy, PT, pain and torture. That's what that stands for, pain and torture. I'm getting my hips realigned and I'm beginning to walk a little better. And this is, of course, great joy for me because this has persisted for a year now. Hopefully, one day I'll walk without a cane. So, and Tinka and I are celebrating 50 years of marriage this year. And that's great. That's a great thing. That's awesome. So thank you all for listening. Is there anyone online, Adam, who would like to share a joy or concern? No one? Last chance to step up. Okay, thank you for sharing, for thinking those thoughts that maybe you didn't voice. We place a stone in our water chalice to represent the joys and concerns we have shared with our church community and in recognition of those we hold close and have not shared. We remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hope and and those we hold in silence in our hearts. So with this public speaking class I'm taking, perhaps I'll improve somewhat. There's always hope. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in one of several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value of the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Diner Row out in the parish hall and or Robert Braun in the church office if you're interested in purchasing the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. To those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. And to all of you who have joined us today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward? They will receive the collection. A bag will also be passed to collect food and hygiene items to be distributed to those in need. Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share.
seated. Our meditation today is an excerpt from the responsive reading, We Are Called to Pay Attention, by Amanda Udis Kessler. I invite you to read the bold italicized lines on the slide. This morning and all mornings, we are called to pay attention. Throughout our lives, we are called to pay attention. We are called to pay attention to the society in which we live. We are called to understand the ways in which the lives of people we don't know and never will know and are made harder by political and economic policies that value some kinds of people over other kinds of people. In paying attention to our society, we give thanks for the many people who are working for justice for everyone. We join in working with them so that all people are treated with the dignity and worth they possess. In that we do, we are called attention. Now let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. Now, I would like to introduce Tinka Friend, reading the sermon, The Promise of All Lives Mattering, by Amanda Udis Kessler. This sermon was taken from uua.org website and does not necessarily reflect the views of the reader.
Just so you know, it does actually reflect my views. And I will be using a full 30 minutes for this part of the service. So get comfortable. If you need a pillow, if you came here after I passed the pillows out, they're usually in that back corner if you want to make yourself more comfortable, because I know these pews, over 100 years old, can be hard. So before I start reading the sermon for this morning, I want to put it in perspective. And I would like for us to remember where and how and why the phrase Black Lives Matter came to be. So it started actually as an online tweet. And on July 13th, 2013, two women tweeted, and this was the day after the killing or the murder of Trayvon Martin. So Alicia Garza tweeted, "Black people, I love you. I love us. Our lives matter." And Patrice Marie Collers-Brignat put, "Declaration. Black bodies will no longer be sacrificed for the rest of the world's enlightenment. I am done. I am so done. Trayvon, you are loved infinitely." Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Probably I don't have to tell you much about Trayvon Martin, but I'm going to do that to set the stage since this came out of that. Trayvon Martin, I'm sure we remember, was a 17-year-old unarmed Black teenager in Sanford, Florida, walking back from a 7-Eleven store in February 2012. Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, had seen Martin walking in his neighborhood and called the police because he thought Martin looked suspicious. It was a predominantly white neighborhood. And Martin didn't live there, he was visiting. Although Zimmerman so he went and called the police. He was told not to do anything. They were sending police officers out. Zimmerman followed Martin, confronted him, got in an argument with him, shot and killed him. When law enforcement arrived, Zimmerman claimed that he had been assaulted by Martin and fired in self-defense. Zimmerman remained free for weeks, but as the shooting gained national attention, demonstrations demanding his prosecution were held in cities across the United States. He was finally charged with second-degree murder and arrested on April 2012. At his trial, more than a year later, Zimmerman claimed that he had acted in self-defense, citing a controversial Florida law known as Stand Your Ground. His acquittal in July of 2013 was widely perceived as a miscarriage of justice and led to further nationwide protests. That came from Wikipedia. So this started from a protest tweet, but it developed into a movement. And this that I'm about to read, I took from the Black Lives Matter website. Hashtag Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, Incorporated, is a global organization in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, we are winning immediate improvements in our lives. We are expansive. We are a collective of liberators who believe in an inclusive and spacious movement. We also believe that in order to win and bring in as many people with us along the way, we must move beyond the narrow nationalism that is all too prevalent in Black communities. We must ensure we are building a movement that brings all of us to the front. We affirm the lives of Black queer and trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all Black lives along the gender spectrum. Our network centers those who have been marginalized within Black liberation movements. We are working for a world where Black lives are no longer systematically targeted for demise. We affirm our humanity, our contributions to this society, our resilience in the face of deadly opposition. The call for Black Lives Matter is a rallying cry for all Black lives striving for liberation. Black Lives Matter has created official merchandise to support our mission, and all proceeds from purchases made go directly to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, a nonprofit organization. And Britannica says, the name Black Lives Matter signals condemnation of the unjust killing of Black people by police. Black people are far more likely to be killed by police in the United States than white people. And the demand that society value the lives and humanity of Black people as much as it values the lives and humanity of white people. Now, that's Black Lives Matter. What about the slogan, all lives matter? Again, Wikipedia. All lives matter is a slogan that was created as a negative response to the Black Lives Matter movement. It is a conservative rejection of the acknowledgement of police brutality and ethnic violence that is for the purpose of the Black Lives Matter movement. The All Lives Matter movement was created as a negative response to the Black Lives Matter movement, and the use of the All Lives Matter slogan on Twitter following the killings of Michael Brown and Eric Gardner began in 2014 to undermine the purpose and message of the Black Lives Matter call to action. That's a quote from their Twitter. And it was used to deny recognition of racial violence against African Americans. Seems pretty clear cut, right? One side, the other. However, some supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement adopted the All Lives Matter slogan. Why, you might think? To shift debate away from the struggle on semantics so they could get on. And some, however, within the supporters of the Black Lives Movement, avoided the term entirely. So it was in the midst of this struggle, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, that this, what I'm about to read, was written. As we said, it was written by Amanda Udis Kessler. It was written on March 14th, 2017, and it's titled The Promise of All Lives Mattering. Given that Unitarian Universalists believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people, that's our first principle there, why should we say Black Lives Matter rather than all lives matter? To answer this question, we must draw a distinction between a faith stance and a description of reality. We need to clarify how we can tell that someone's life matters. And finally, we have to demonstrate that Black lives, sadly, don't matter in the United States today, and never have. The question then becomes, what can we do? All along, it is important to recognize that while we have the best possible intentions, systematic racism has little to do with intentions and a lot to do with outcomes that are larger than our individual lives, but that we can influence individually and collectively. We first need to understand the difference between an affirmation of faith and a description of reality. When we say all lives matter, are we making a statement about what we believe based on, for example, the first principle? Or are we saying that reality demonstrates that all people are treated as though they matter? Clearly, the phrase all lives matter represents a belief, a claim, a trust that contrary to all visible evidence, all lives do matter, or at least they will matter in the world for which we strive and work for. Faith stances are necessary, but they are not completely sufficient for that world. Here's the problem. There's something in the claim that all lives matter that smacks of colorblindness. Colorblindness is often well-intentioned, an attempt to see everyone as a human being, and therefore the same, without paying too much attention to race or other traits seen as extraneous. We imagine that Dr. King envisioned a colorblind future in his hope that his 4 children would eventually be judged based on the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. Colorblindness, however, misses the fullest reality of who we are as people. We are each individuals with our own experiences and our own particular ways of making sense of these experiences. We are all human beings, sharing certain common needs and able to offer certain common blessings to each other. So far, so good. Our individuality seems to point back to King's comment about the content of our character. Our commonality as human beings seems to fit the assumption of colorblindness, which have a lot to do with the fact of people being the same. But we are not merely individuals and human beings. We are also, and crucially, members of social groups. Groups that get valued differently from one another and treated differently from each other, and thus that have group experiences that differ in patterned ways. Men are paid more, on the average, than women for the same work. And women are more likely to get raped than men. Heterosexuals rarely get gay bashed unless they are mistaken for being gay. And Black people are treated less well than white people in many walks of life, precisely because they are still judged by the color of their skin. Colorblindness has no way to address the reality that our group identities lead to different treatments. In fact, it's worse than that. If society is colorblind, then any difficulty that someone faces must be their own fault, since we are all individuals and only individuals. So all those women getting raped must have asked for it. All that violence against sexual minorities wouldn't happen if they just didn't flaunt it. And Black people wouldn't keep getting shot if they weren't hoodie-wearing thugs. Colorblindness, you see, among other things, is a way to blame the victim. Once we reject colorblindness as an accurate description of society, we can then start talking realistically about the evidence that Black lives don't matter much in the US, and then we can respond to that fact. So what does it mean to matter? How do you know that you matter? Here are some possibilities. People take you seriously. They believe you when you talk about your own experiences. They treat you as an expert in your own life. They expect good things of you. They support your well-being and want you to flourish. You have access to high-quality schools, safe neighborhoods, all the things you need to make a life that matters, that is full of joy and that gives back to others. You know that you are valued by others and valuable to them. How do you know that your life matters? That others cherish your very existence and want it to continue? Well, here are 2 answers. If your life matters, then you have access to all the basic resources you need. And you are not in danger of being physically harmed or killed. You can breathe clean air, drink clean water, and eat healthy food. You have a warm place to live. You have access to good, affordable health care. You live in a neighborhood with little or no violent crime. No one will beat you up, and people will interact with you in ways that look out for your safety when possible. Do Black people in the United States today see evidence that they matter? That their perspective matters? That their flourishing matters? What about their lives mattering? Both personal stories and statistical studies suggest that the answers are negative. The situations below may not be universal to absolutely every Black person, but they are so common as to be well-documented social patterns. Black people are less likely to be shown apartments and homes in certain neighborhoods than white people, and more likely to be offered the highest risk, the highest cost type of mortgage. Black people are more likely to live in segregated neighborhoods with poorer housing stock, failing schools, inadequate municipal services, lower quality food in the stores, fewer banks made up for by expensive check cashing outfits, less information about potentially high-paying jobs, more concentrated poverty, and more violence, mostly due to the concentrated poverty. And there's not much most Black people can do to change this, since their houses are usually worth less than houses in white suburbs. They are accruing less home equity, and the property tax base in their neighborhoods can't pay for the well-funded schools like those in predominantly white neighborhoods. Now, Black people hear that Jews are never to forget the Holocaust, that Americans are never to forget Pearl Harbor or 9/11, but that they, Black people, are playing the race card or acting like victims if they bring up slavery, the failure of Reconstruction, lynching, Jim Crow, the violent repression of voting rights in the South in the 1960s, or today's mass incarceration of people of color. If a Black person sends in a resume for a job, they are only half as likely as an equally qualified white person to receive a callback or a job offer. A white person just released from prison has as good a chance to get a particular job as a Black person with no criminal record. Black people need more education than white people to receive equal consideration for the same job in many cases. A Black person was probably quoted a higher price for the last car they bought than a white person would have been quoted for that same car. Black people know that certain states are trying to restrict their voting rights, even now, and that the Supreme Court is letting those states get away with it. Black people in Los Angeles may know that South Central LA has one primary care physician for every 13,000 residents. But the nearby white town of Bel Air has one for every 214 residents. Similarly, Southeast Washington, D.C. has one pediatrician for 3,700 children, while nearby white Bethesda has one for every 400 children. A Black person may well be given less pain treatment at the doctor's than a white person would be, And a Black person experiencing a heart attack is less likely than a white person to receive best practice care. I'm sure you may remember some of what I'm about to say. Even upper middle class men who teach or study at prestigious universities are not afforded protection against police suspicion towards them or mistreatment of them, or against white assumptions that they are criminals. Some years back, a Black television producer was made to sit on the curb, handcuffed in an expensive suit. Why? Because he was bald. And a bald Black man had just done something illegal. A Black person's trip to a department store is likely to result in being followed by security. And a trip to an expensive jewelry or clothing store may result in the person simply not even being let in at all, since it's presumed they can't afford to shop here. Black men are more likely than white men to be stopped by the police because they fit the description of a criminal, regardless of their behavior. They are more likely to be arrested, charged, and convicted than white men. And if convicted, usually face a longer prison sentence than a white person would for the same crime. Black men born in 2001 have a 1 in 3 chance of being incarcerated at some point in their lives. 33% out of 3 people, 1. And up to 6 times greater the chance than white men born in that same year. Black people see white people doing all sorts of illegal things, including underage drinking, aggravated assault, felony thefts, possession and sale of narcotics, and participating in riots without paying much or any penalty for it, all the while knowing that Black people are killed by police for carrying out petty theft, selling loose cigarettes on the street, or doing absolutely nothing illegal at all, like walking back from a 7-Eleven store. While white people can open carry and not get shot, point guns at police officers and not get shot, shoot up a movie theater, killing 12 and wounding 70 others, and somehow manage to be taken alive and not get shot. In contrast, a 12-year-old Black boy holding a toy gun in a park is shot to death by police within 2 seconds. 2 seconds of their arrival. And the police are virtually never held accountable for these killings. Those of us of a certain age will recall civil rights activist Ella Baker's comment that the killing of Black men, Black mothers' sons, is not as important to white society as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. And since this is still true 60 years after she said that, Black parents teach their children, especially their boys, exactly how to behave in a case of an encounter with the police, who are more likely to shoot them than they would be to shoot white boys. Black parents must tell their children they can't assume that the police are on their side. Doing this is utterly heartbreaking, but the alternative is worse. A young Black man who spends any time on the highway or in white areas will almost certainly eventually have a run-in with the police, no matter how innocent, well-dressed, or wealthy he is. And Black parents can only hope that their sons will survive with no physical injuries. Black men shot to death by police officers for any reason or no reason at all will be described more negatively in the media than they would be if they were white mass murderers such as James Holmes, Ted Bundy, and Elliot Rodger. All of us who are white in America mostly have the luxury of ignoring these realities. But Black people don't. Over and over, the message is hammered into their heads. You don't matter. Your well-being doesn't matter. Your life doesn't matter. We white people don't really care. We don't care how well you do in life or even whether you live. And until we who are white acknowledge these realities, our effectiveness as change agents is limited. So what can white UUs do? First, we must be willing to be uncomfortable. Then we have to make a commitment to this particular arena of justice, not to the exclusion of other justice struggles, but as an important place to live on the side of love. Once we know that Black people are treated as though their lives don't matter as much as white lives, we can focus on changing the equation. We can be part of the struggle to make Black lives matter, though we can never be at its center. But here are some specific things we can do. We can educate ourselves about Black history and present-day reality through reading and other forms of learning. We can be in solidarity with people of color and believe them when they tell us what their lives are like. We can donate money to organizations that support Black flourishing. We can write letters to the editor that get people thinking. We can vote for politicians who acknowledge racial inequality and are committed to doing something about it. We can join organizations that address these issues. We can develop church projects along those lines. We can educate other white people about the realities of racism and the opportunities of justice. Anything we do that invites more whites to be a part of the solution is an act of living on the side of love. If you are already doing this work, and I personally know that many of us in this room are, may you be blessed in it. If you are ready to do it, may patience and courage be yours. And may we all be part of the building of a future in which we say, all lives matter. And that when we say that, when we say all lives matter, we are finally making a reality statement and not just a faith statement. Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen and blessed be. I forgot there was a song. Sorry. Our closing hymn is As You Go on Your Way by Amanda Udis Kessler. The words will be projected on the slide behind me, and feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, or just follow along and enjoy the music. So please stand in body or spirit and join us in As You Go on Your Way.
And now, as you go on your way, take care, take care. The love, all the love that you seek is there, it's there. Love flows through our words and deeds, love knows all the things we need, love grows as our hearts are freed from hatred, fear, and pain. Take care as you go on your way until we meet again. And now, as you go on your way, take care, take care. The love, all the love that you seek is there, it's there. Love flows through our words and deeds, love knows all the things we need, love grows as our hearts are freed from hatred, fear, and pain. Take care as you go on your way until we meet again.
Please be seated. The benediction is by Wayne B. Arneson, and it's titled To Embody the Dream of Martin Luther King, Jr. We have come into each other's presence this day, seeking a part of ourselves, knowing that we do not live alone, and knowing that we cannot live fully if we are for ourselves alone. We gather in thanks for the life and ministry of Martin Luther King Jr., not because we want to worship him as a saint, but because we wish to embody his dream as a possibility that we make real. We gather with full knowledge of our shortcomings. Our lives set before us many tasks, and often we are not equal to them. We fall short of our own expectations. We find we do not know enough. We are not always patient. We fall into anger. We cannot find the strength. We lack the vision. We wait in vain for wisdom. It is painful to acknowledge our shortcomings, and yet we are here. We are here, not always perfect, not always wise, and sadly, not always just, but wonderfully and mysteriously human and alive. We dedicate this time together to renewing our hope. May the stories we share give us courage. May the songs we sing give us hope. And may the words we speak give us wisdom. And most of all, may the touch of hands, the sight of faces, the sounds of voices lift in song and affirmation restore in us faith that this world may be made whole with all its people one. Amen. Namaste, amen, and blessed be.
Thank you, Tinka, for sharing your valuable time and the reading with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 or 15 minutes for questions or to share some discussion or observations from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Please be aware that these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you're now welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Would anyone like to come up and share their thoughts? Bill, was it really you?
You know,
Maurice Turner.
we keep
Join the
sometimes
meeting.
it seems as I get older, we're tackling a lot of, sometimes it feels like we're tackling the same questions over and over again. It gets discouraging. But there's this. If we can keep, there's good, how to put it, there's in any long statement of how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to run a society, there's some hidden words in there for how we can be jerks. I think that our job is to find all the spots that would make us jerks, and race is a big one. And we quietly and methodically take away those points where the wrong of it keeps building up. You ask someone to pay taxes? Oh, then their life must matter. Are they Black? Well, you want their tax money, so maybe Black lives matter too. If you, gee, can we extend that out to brown folks? My gosh, I think we can. I'm noticing a trend here, that there are buckets of right and wrong out there that if we just go at methodically and say, nope, it wasn't a good idea in the 1960s that we could beat up on people. It's probably not a good idea 63 years later that we could beat up on people, that we can take away from them being at their optimum, at their best. A lot of us are looking at humanitarianism, and we start at different levels. You started being Black, you started being lesbian, you started being minor numbered religious group. That in each case you find the spot where you're, but if, and you take that away and you just say, hey, you folks. Morgan Freeman had a line about race one where he said, ask me my name. Hi, my name's Morgan. You start, you make it personal, you take away all the little places where exceptionalism of the wrong kind can hide. And you say, now let's go on about the business of having a good day. And it is, make it a business, make it a reason to where there's no particular reason why I should be a jerk or be treated like a jerk. Take away that moment and go on about the business of living well and being a blessing to others.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Your name, please.
My name is Ipiani Locker, and just want to say thank you for the sharing today, the knowledge, the insight. I really appreciate the fact that the UU Church addresses issues that relate to everybody that resides in our community, everyone that's blessed to be alive, a part of humanity. I think that's the unifying thing. We're all fueled by the breath of life. However, one thinks that has came about and how that fuels one another. But the reality is that our time here is short. And I'm always happy to see the conversations that are had here. And I greatly appreciate you, Ms. Tinka, for pouring your heart and soul into the message. And it's something I definitely want to be going to share out definitely this Sunday, because I feel like these are the conversations that must be had. We all have a sphere of influence, you know, and addressing these conversations shows people that it's not made up or a figment of our imagination. This is for those that do not know, I am African American, and this is our lived reality, you know. So I just appreciate you highlighting it and challenging others to challenge themselves to look upon their humanity and see the humanity in the other lives that dwell with them in this experience. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
I also want to say, this is a book that a group I belong to, which is the White People of Faith Against Racism that Adam started. This was the last book that we read, and it's very small, it's short, I really recommend it. It's called The Little Book of Racial Healing, and Coming to the Table for Truth-Telling, Liberation, and Transformation, by co-authored by a white and a Black person. In fact, a descendant of slaves and a descendant of slave owners. Thomas Norman DeWolf and Jody Getz. So I really recommend this as a place to start. Anyone else?
Your name, please.
I'm Walt Russell. I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention again. Affirmative action is extremely hated by those who want to enforce inequality, because affirmative action really works. And as you may wonder why that could be, or why it should be so important because it's so hated, is, well, I'll just give an example. At Loma Linda, when I had my my spinal stenosis operation 6 years ago, the Loma Linda physician who did that wondrous operation for me happened to be African American. And as you see, the affirmative action forces the society to reflect in the boardroom and in where the physicians are the same as the outside population, which is the point of affirmative action. You will see that all the various stereotypes that the other side, or I shouldn't even say the other side, that the racists like to cling to, those begin to fall apart, because you can't say, well, there aren't any Blacks who are lawyers, there aren't any Blacks who are physicians, there aren't any Blacks who are teachers. And then you go, well, no, that's not true. I had my spinal stenosis operation done in a traditionally very white area, Loma Linda University. Anyway, affirmative action, of course, works. That's why it's being all but totally annihilated. And as you know, this spring, the Supreme Court will finally smash it completely in the Ivy League schools. But hopefully, eventually, we'll bring it back and we'll progress again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Walt, I just wanted to say last night on PBS, I watched, it's a show that basically like a documentary, that's what it was. There we go, a documentary. And it was looking at Pasadena from the 1920s up to the 2000s and something, you know, like nowadays. And Pasadena integrated in 1950 at their schools. And so they took the class that was the first integrated class, starting with first grade, and kind of followed them and showed. And then now that there is no, the integration has now been demolished and done away with, and everything else, looking at what the school looked like there and the people and how high all the kids at that school went. And now it's almost, there's like, they have self-divided, and now that same school is now sort of the Black school, you know, or the minority school, and looking at the differences. And it is, the evidence is there. Just like you said, it works. The evidence is right there as to how all people can be, all the kids can be elevated through integration. But unfortunately, like you said, it's not happening anymore.
I think I actually have seen that show. No, I'm talking about affirmative action.
Right.
It's controversial, but it does work. It basically, the premise is either you want to have a multi-ethnic environment out there, or else you want to have supremacy. And it does work, and that's why it's greatly hated. As it is put, you don't have to like us, you just have to give us a chance. Give us those slots. As long as we qualify as everybody else, we reach a certain qualification. Beyond that, the question is, do you want to have a multi-ethnic environment or not? And a lot of people say, no, actually, we don't. We want to be on top.
Mhm.
And affirmative action does work. And so, unlike when you see integration, forced integration worked for a while, and now there's white flight going to the private schools. Affirmative action says, well, that may happen, but we will still enforce the fact that if someone wants to be a teacher and they happen to not be white, if they qualify, you will have to let them do it, no matter your personal opinions. And that's why it is so powerful. Thank you.
Thanks. Online? Pat?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say some of us of a certain age have grandchildren and great-grandchildren of different races. And it's terrifying to think that they're not safe. That's all.
That's true.
Thank you, Pat.
Anyone else?
We always fixate over what we don't have. So the brokest person in the room probably will talk a little bit about the money and add-ons to how it goes. A lot of the times racial fear these days is fueled by the fact of when you have somebody who looks obviously different, but he's already othered, and then you think, well, what if he's dumb and trashy and doesn't know how to make the gifts that I'm about to hand out by a better job work? It turns into, it seems to me that a lot of what is needed is as long as a person doesn't feel trapped by his job to the point of saying, this is all I got. I can't afford to give up anything to people of color, people of different race, color, creed, sex. I can't afford to give that up. If we can work on the idea that nobody's going to starve. I used to work at a convention center, and basically during a season where we didn't have enough people to do the job, we were hossing around big hundreds of tables and chairs during the course of a day. And racism didn't have time for it. It was more like, hey, you lift the other end of this table, one down, 600 to go. It'd be like that. And the fear comes when you don't think you're going to get enough for yourself along the way. Then all of a sudden you're afraid of everything. It's like, oh, he's a jerk and he's got an inside line. Maybe he's got a racial hook that he can play that I can't. Look up an old movie called The Straw Dogs. It, among other things, has to do with a bunch of big, scary, trashy rednecks who with some real dark spots. to them in terms of dark spots. There's a lovely word for you. The word you use when when people go, excuse me, I'm right here. But look up Straw Dogs. It has to do with frightened white folks with some old bad customs. And then when the new white liberals come to town, it's the anger that they have on tap is, oh, somebody hits the faucet. It's also so it's one of those things. If we're not afraid of starving, what's that line we used to use, living from abundance? If you're not afraid that you're going to starve, amazing things can still happen.
Thank you. If there aren't any further comments, I want to thank those of you who hung in with me for the length of this. I know it was long today, longer than usual, but I just felt there was so much information and so many things that needed to be said. So I appreciate you staying in here with me. And thank you, those of you who shared. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And now please join us in the parish hall for further fellowship.